Hi, this is Dave from Cyderbaby. I'm talking to Fabrizio Grossi from the Soul Garage Experience, plus many other projects. So, Fab, what have you got going at the moment?
Well, first of all, hello, good morning here from Los Angeles. Well, actually, I'm working actively on this new project that you were saying, which is actually my solo project. It's my first solo project. It's called Soul
Right.
Garage Experience. It's my name attached because it's my thing, but it's kind of actually it's a band itself, you know. On the recording, there's I would say a rotation of great friends and musicians. I'm
Cool.
doing a lot of the playing and a lot of the singing on the record again because this is something that I always wanted to do. But I have a great setup of musicians as a touring band. Featuring Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addictions.
Yeah.
This amazing guitar player, a young guy that it's like the talk of the town here in LA and in the States, Derek Day.
Okay.
And also a bunch of other musicians like American Idol finalist Diamond Mix on lead vocals and pianos. We're kind of like alternating singing songs. And also Alex Alessandroni was a great musical director here in town and also is my keyboard player with Supersonic Blues Machine. So we're keeping the family close and the friends even closer.
Okay, cool. So you've got a single out at the moment?
Yes, right down below. It's the first single of the upcoming album. The album is called Counterfeited Blues for the Solstice, and it will be out at the end of January. But
Okay.
we wanted to kind of like make a lead way and introduce friends and possible fans to it. Since, like I said, I never really done anything, under my own, not necessarily name, but kind of like something that it's fully me, a personal, solo, and all that kind of stuff. So we just wanted to kind of like pave the way for the album release, and so far so good. But we have another single coming out right before the holidays.
Go on then.
It's going to be titled "I'd Rather Be Wrong," and yeah, I hope you guys like it as much as you seems to be digging this first one.
So you've worked with a huge amount of people and projects over in the past. Most recently, the Supersonic Blues Machine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tell me how that came about.
Okay, well that's what I consider my at this point it's like my main band because it's
Right.
like it takes up most of my time. It's actually Kenny Aronoff, drumming legend Kenny Aronoff, your UK king. I would call him the new king of British rock blues, Chris Barris, and myself. But it's not just a power trio. We have a lot of different sidemen playing with us. Again, Alex Alessandroni. We have the Super Sonettes on the BVs. We have our co-writer and great partner Serge Simic on second guitar and BVs, and a slew of guests and friends that we like to take out with us both on live shows as much as we do when we record. That was pretty much the overall idea. Kenny Aronoff and myself met through Steve Lukather of
Right.
Toto. We're putting together kind of like a side project for us to do some European shows. And Steve said, "Hey, you always help me to put these things together. We always record and we always play here in town, but we never get the chance to kind of like, we travel together on a bunch of different occasions to do things. But, how about, this time you come around and all of that?" And it's sure, cool, man. And he says, like, I just need to figure out who's going to be the drummer. And he says, "If you have any suggestion," and I says, "Well, I always wanted to play with Kenny Aronoff." So it's like, "Oh, wow, that's a great friend of mine, blah, blah, blah." So he called in, we got together a couple of days later. We were like immediately a match. And we had a great time with that project. Was called Goodfellas. But when that finished, actually, I'll take the blame for that because in those days, Lukather wanted to kind of like call it off with Toto. I mean, there was like so much rotation of musicians and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
dude, I hate for the band to become the band with no one of the original members in the band, So, and I was telling him, say, listen, everybody knows that what's been happening to the band is not just because of the band. I mean, Jeff Porcaro and Mike Porcaro, those are tragic. I mean,
Yeah.
if you just, changing people around and things are moving because you are a prima donna, then you're probably going to get some dirt on it, and you probably deserve it. But
Yeah.
I'm trust me, Sergio, you guys have plenty of history, and all your most recent shows and records show the kind of love that the public give you. So I think it would be an incredible mistake. So I kind of like really lobby on Luke to keep total on. And I guess once we got back to Los Angeles, I mean, you know, it started talking to Joseph Williams and the whole thing. So they kind of like picked up the most recent years worth of touring. And actually, I'm really happy because it's always been one of my favorite bands. And kind of, but, you know, Kenny and I were like left without the guitar player, singer, and everything. And I said, I really would like to continue that experience. Let's look for somebody that could, you know, eventually do what Luke was doing, and we'll just do our own thing. And throughout the years, I started to actually hire Kenny on some of the production that I was doing. You know, we worked together on Leslie West, and we ended up recording with Joe Bonamassa, with Slash, with Zach Wild, and a lot of other musicians and a lot of other artists that we played. Till a moment about 5 years ago, Billy Gibbons calls me because ZZ Top needed to record a new song. There was going to be a commercial for a brand of Texas whiskey. Well, actually, they were not going to record a song. They already had a song because they had a new record coming out, which was their latest release, La Futura. Yeah. And for some reason, they could not, the company could not clear one of the songs, which is the one the director wanted to use. So Billy asked me, hey, would you like to, you know, just write something together? You know, I'll put it out there. We'll make it very, very focused to the whole, you know, I have a concept. And when Billy tells you that he has a concept, trust me, he does. So I came to the studio and we started to do this thing. And by the end of the day, when we pretty much were done with, you know, all our writing, words, programming, and all of that, management let us know that the director ended up in clearing the ZZ Top, the tune that they originally wanted to use. But just because, you know, we put in all that work and all of it, label kind of like gave us, you know, carte blanche to do what we wanted to do with the song, no strings attached for Billy, which is kind of like strange on those kind of circumstances. So I was asking Billy, hey, what are we going to do with this? Because, I mean, it sounds really cool. It's just, it's a cool idea. And he went like, yeah, you got one, write 9 more and start a band. And you know, I said, well, you know, that's actually not a bad idea. So I'm calling Kenny immediately. And he's Kenny, I'm going to send you something. You know, Billy was there with me. I sent him an MP3. Yeah. And he calls me back immediately. It's just like, wow, that's the thing that you were telling me that you were going to do with Billy? Yes. Who's going to be playing drums? Because on that demo, they were like a drum machine thing, right? Yeah. And I said, well, here's how the thing developed within the last 24 hours. So I explained him the whole story, and he's like, how long are you guys going to be there for? Well, we're just about to go grab something to eat. It's just like, I'll be there in an half hour. So he arrived with drums, everything set up. By the end of the night, the whole song was, we re-recorded everything else. The whole song was finished, and that was like actually the first single. You know, that was Running Whiskey. It's just crazy how things were developing, because in those days I was producing a great singer and guitar player from Texas named Lance Lopez that actually ended up in becoming our singer and guitar player for the first 2 records. Right. And within 2 weeks, Government Mule came to play to Los Angeles. And like in those days, I was finishing up a record that I was producing with Warren Haynes. It's a posthumous records on series of records about Tommy Bolin. So basically, there were like some original like beat tracks and, you know, alternative takes of some of the original recordings. Sometimes drums were recorded just with 1 microphone or 2, but you know, we got like Jeff Porcaro playing drums and stuff like that. So it was just like really like a, you know, a fan dream. And we were going back and forth, and I go to see them at Orpheum, is a theater in downtown Los Angeles. I get on the tour bus, and Warren says like, hey man, what's going on with this thing, man? You know, why don't you tell me anything? What are you talking about? Yeah, Gibbons told me that you guys are doing the recordings and stuff, man. I want in, you know, let's do it. It's a great idea. And I was like, oh, and I was preparing the whole speech to kind of like give you the right pitch. And Gibbons was like, hey man, you know, I'm recording something with Fab. You should check it out too. That's all it took from the Reverend, right? You know? So I started to exchange songs with Warren, and within 2 weeks, he was at Carriage House in Connecticut, close to where he lives in upstate New York. We set up a video connection, just much like this one, and I was in the studio with Kenny, and we ended up in recording the song at distance, but, you know, being there. And that was our second single called Remedy. And I sent it to Ed, president of Mascot Records, dear friend of mine, and I've been doing a lot of production for Mascot for a long time. And I said, hey, check it out. This is the thing that I was telling you that was about to happen, and it's just coming into place. So he offered us a deal right there on the spot, and and we started to do our thing.
Okay, cool. So how did Chris come along then at a later date?
Well, after the first two records, there was I actually ended up in helping Lance to secure his own solo record,
Right.
and we produced his record, and he was getting a lot of requests, obviously, to go out and play and all of that, while we were like in the middle of doing some other booking. In addition, there was also some other things that, like on a health wise, that Lance needed to address. So we kind of like had to be forced in making a decision. It's like, he cannot do all of this. And, we talk, and, obviously I consider Lance one of the best, guitar players out there, just by none. The blues rock guys is just a freaking monster as a guitar player and as a singer. And we kind of ended up in just, parting ways. So he was able to focus more on his record and take care of, his personal health situation that he needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
And I don't, to be honest with you, I was aware of Chris because, I'm just trying to keep current to what's going on. So I was like really curious the first time that I see this guy that looked like somebody from a brutal hardcore, band, like that kind of stuff. And the whole story of the MMA. And then I'm checking out some videos and some stuff, and it was like not what I would expect, by his look and everything. And I was like quite intrigued. I'm having a conversation with actually our label's boss in the UK, Steve Marsh. If he's watching, Steve, what's up? And he was telling me, hey, I know that Neil, our agent, it's booking you guys for some stuff, but do you have somebody already in mind to take over Lance with all the other shows that you guys are going to have tonight? Well, we had a couple of guys in mind, but he said, Fletcher, why are you asking that? And he says, well, listen, there is a guy that, first of all, it's a big fan of yours guys, but you really need to check him out. And I says, who's this dude? And he sends me the link. Okay, I know the guy, but he sends me some more stuff, including some live videos of him and everything. So
yeah,
I ended up asking him, hey, just give me this, how you guys say it over there, Chris Bloke, phone number. And I called him, and we talked for about 2 or 3 days back and forth on a few things. We exchanged some files, and in about 2 weeks, he was here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I kind of like gave him a welcome with the Reverend. We took him out for a crazy night of tequila and all other stuff. This is like, this is your initiation if you want to do this. Let's see, first of all, if you can get over this. And which he did, obviously. Proud, I guess, pub goers in a good British history and legacy. So it definitely kept up with us. And the following day, we went to the studio. We just jamming. After a couple of hours of jamming, we know that it was working good. So we ended up in play for another 2 or 3 days. That was pretty much the rehearsal of the tour that would have happened after 2 months. And that's it. That's pretty much what it was. It's very, very organic. No fighting, no crazy things. It's just, very simple. And actually, we couldn't be happier. We have a great relationship with Chris. The only thing that I don't like about this is the fact that there is like an ocean in between. But other than that, and actually pretty much the whole United States as well. But other than that, everything is great. We're getting things done. We finished obviously our new record. It's going to be released next year. Mascot will make the announcement. I'm not at liberty to disclose any dates. First of all, because I don't even know when.
Okay.
But there is a bunch of stuff too. We're kind of actually obviously COVID destroyed a lot of plans for everybody. We had a huge history of blues tour scheduled for theaters for this summer, for this year, for 2020. And we were going to have with us Shamika Copeland, Sugar Blue with her, Joe Louis Walker, and Shirley King. And we were going to do like a kind of like a visiting the history of blues and how blues affected bands and even more rock artists, starting from Robert Johnson all the way to, us, I would say. And we had like a bunch of things that we put together, which was really cool. Obviously, that was like a major blow. We had a lot of summer festivals that were booked. That's gone. And then again, I had a bunch of shows too with my solo outfit with Soul Garage Experience. So we, because of that, we ended up in having to put the whole thing on hold. But now that we have a better idea what's going on, and our agents are both working on reestablishing the tours and the shows for whatever it's possible to be done in 2021. We have new management. So starting actually this week, we're going to have more interactions on our official pages and profiles with Supersonic. We have a brand new webpage, supersonicbluesmachine.com. We have a brand new YouTube page. It's Supersonic Blues Machine Official, and then the usual Facebook, Instagram, and blah,
Absolutely.
blah, blah. But we're going to have like a weekly appointment with Chris, myself, and Kenny answering to fans' questions, and we're just going to talk some shit. You know, it's a fun hang, to be honest with you, because when we get together, it's always, you know, because we have to play and the super tight schedules of the tour and the rehearsal, and obviously we live like worlds apart.
Yeah.
So we don't really have time to kind of like do these kind of hangs other than maybe the hour before, after the show ends. So actually it's quite refreshing. And I think people is gonna, you know, kind of like find out and discover this kind of side of the band too. Because I've been hearing, I mean, we have great fans. Well, I guess there's some, I wouldn't call them haters, but people that are like always like, because probably we bring around a lot of these, like, I guess, superstar, if you want to call them. Now they are probably on their own right, but to us, they're just friends and colleagues and people that we like to be around with. So I think it's like that. This is kind of like a very detached type of situation and blah, 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 that will fly with a, you know, private plane, and absolutely not. This couldn't be any more family run business. And actually, that's the reason why a lot of these cats are liking to come up with us and just tour with us, because it's a very stress-free environment. So this is actually what we're showing on in the show. It's called the Supersonic Talks, and actually first episode is dropping this weekend, and then every week we got something. So
Excellent.
actually, if there is any fan out there, I mean, if there's any questions for us of any sort, anything goes, you can send your question via email at info@supersonicblues.com, and we'll make sure then we'll read it, we talk it, we comment it, we'll probably kill it, trash it, burn it, and we'll give you a good time.
That's excellent. I may look that up later. You spoke a little bit about the blues history. So what was your influences growing up, and what influenced you to become the player and the producer you are now?
Well, I was born and raised in Milan, Italy, and back then, I mean, I left when I was, you know, when I was about to turn 21. So back then, it was definitely not a rock place or a country. I mean, great music legacy and tradition, but not the kind of stuff that really make me take. In addition, when I was in my forming years, like 4 or 5, you know, when you start to get close to music and everything, there was not really rock on the radio. There was either Italian music or, check this out, R&B, funk.
Really?
Yeah, it was like Earth, Wind and Fire. A lot of like black performers from the 60s and the 70s. I mean, which were like superstars already in the States. But we had a lot of that. Of course, that you also had ABBA and that kind of stuff. But I, like said, the amount of time and broadcasting coverage that people like, again, Earth, Wind and Fire, or, you know, BB King or stuff like that will get was just like 10 to 1 compared to rock bands, you know? And I liked when those sounds would come on the radio. My mom used to keep the radio on when we were home and I was doing my homework. I liked that. I did not know what it was, but I liked it. And those years, I remember that on a Saturday night in TV, like I guess the equivalent of your BBC, they had a Saturday night show where they had music guest actors and all that kind of stuff. And one of those things that goes on for a couple of hours. And I remember that weekend, it was the first performance of James Brown and his band. I later found out that those clips are still available. I mean, you can find them on YouTube and stuff. So I was able to find out who was in the band. Actually, it was Bootsy Collins. And that really changed me. I mean, again, I just, how can, you know, a kid that is like 4.5, 5 years old can, no, because when I saw that, I saw the difference there was between what was going on with that music and what went on when other people, other performers and other artists will go there and sing the song and all of that. And I like that. Now, bear in mind, I did not know what a guitar was. I mean, I know what a piano was because I had one of those like little keyboards and stuff. My home, you know, the programmable one, no, yeah, like for kids. And my uncle was a great piano player, so I knew all that, but I had no knowledge whatsoever about any other instruments. But for some reason, that really grabbed my attention. That brought me closer to get very, very friendly, ear friendly to Bob Marley. That was a big reality in Italy back then. There was a lot of reggae music. It was, you know, Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. It's just like that scene was like really, really big. And around the same time, it was like the first, you know, like towards the end of my elementary school, my mom was not like a rock person whatsoever. I mean, she liked the Beatles, she liked the Rolling Stones, but because there was like, I guess, popular culture back then, it was not necessarily what they meant. And plus, obviously, they didn't speak English, so they didn't know anything about the lyrics or anything. Started to listen to this music from this guy from California. And I guess that person was the first guitar hero that I was really introduced to and exposed to, because, I mean, obviously everybody else will play guitar, including Bob Marley, but this guy made it a point to let everybody know that he was a guitar player making guitar music, and that was Carlos Santana. So these three elements was, I guess, what planted the seed. Obviously, older friends, relatives, and stuff like that, those were the rock heroes. I got exposed to Queen, which was one of my other, I guess, biggest passion ever. And then obviously AC/DC, Van Halen, you know, and blah, 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 and all that rock stuff. I guess the major turn, and I always like to bring this up when I talk to, you know, friends and colleagues and people like yourself from the UK, I guess, you know, that was like UK was very fundamental in me deciding to become a musician, because in the summer of '83, I was like 14 or 15. I was there for a couple of weeks because there was a common thing from Italian to send their kids to families and study, you know, English and all of that, right? And I had a bunch of friends of mine from Milan. Bear in mind that I was the youngest, you know, I was like, again, 15 or whatever. And I started to play in those days, and I started to pick up. These other friends were much older. They were already, you know, musicians for a few years and stuff. And we ended up in going to watch this concert, which was, I guess, you know, right now it's considered one of those like legendary performances. Back then we were living it, so we didn't really know it. And that was like actually Castle Donington edition of 1983 that saw Whitesnake as a, I guess, headliner with ZZ Top, Meatloaf, and everything. And actually, and funny because most of the people that were on that bill, I ended up either working or become friends with. And that was the first gig of Ronnie James Dio. I mean, like as a solo stuff. So it was just fantastic, otherworldly. But the main thing is that I was enamored is there was about more than 100,000 people. And as you know, everybody was camping the night before. It was just a major mess. People throwing food, piss, everything. I mean, it was just, you know, the sky between bands was completely covered in stuff flying, right? And sometimes a brawl here or there will surface. But Whitesnake started playing, and, you know, again, excitements and stuff, but these kind of shenanigans were still occurring. Well, then they ended up in playing Ain't No Love in the heart of the city, and the whole thing changed. I mean, it was like, I still have goosebumps thinking about it. Like 100 and something thousand people just all of a sudden coming down and just singing along. It was just like another world experience. And I was like shocked. This is like, whoa, this is what you can do with one song. 3 months later, right before Christmas, you know, 4 months later, Queen did their first performance in Italy, actually the last one with first and last one with Freddie Mercury. And again, and I don't know if I've ever seen a better concert than that. I know that it's a long time ago, but it was still, and those two events is like, dude, if this is what, you know, you can do with people and two people by doing this, that's what I want to do. And that's pretty much what started it all. But going back to your original question, I've probably been more exposed to soul and funk and reggae than actually traditional blues. I discovered the blues here in the States after moving to the States and getting more familiar with the history and the legacy of African Americans and, you know, the culture from, you know, Robert Johnson all the way even, you know, the jazz ramification of a blues history and the gospel and all of that kind of stuff. The first love has always been soul music. It's always been James Brown. It's always been, you know, Curtis Mayfield, Al Green, and all that kind of stuff. That's what makes me tick. So, and that's why I ended up in doing, you know, Soul Garage Experience, because being the main, not the main, but I created a lot of and I wrote a lot of the music, especially the lyrics for Supersonic Blues Machine. Right after our second record, California Soul, I noticed that the overall thing was tending to come a little bit more my way. Meaning, sure, I produced and all of that, but I wanted to make sure that this is like it's not necessarily a triumvirate, but it's like a place where we do our 50 Shades of Blues. We have all these influences of all those great blues influenced bands from the 60s and the 70s, and we do our thing and we take it to space. Well, however, already with some of the material in California Soul and the music that I was already starting to prepare for this new record, we were going black. Black meaning it was like really what I do not know why. I mean, I'm writing a song. I don't really think about, okay, this is where it needs to go. I'm just putting it down. And I'm like, sounds more like Supersonic Fabrizio Machine than not, Supersonic Blues Machine. It's just like, it's like even Super Soul or Super Funk or whatever it is. And to be honest with you, that probably would have worked with Lance being in the band, because I guess him and I share that kind of legacy. Him being part of Bobby Blue Bland since he was very, very young, and then play the Chitlin Circuit, which is, the States, everybody that loves music knows the blues music, know what it is. It's like all those clubs in the South where generally are blues joints, blues and R&B joints. But with Chris, even though he's incredibly influenced by blues rock and a lot of great music traditions that you guys have from the UK, he was not that kind of guy. I mean, he was probably more closer to Cream or to Gary Moore than not, Sly and the Family Stone or, Curtis Mayfield. And I said, you know what? And I kind of like, this is the same thing that I told Chris when I picked him up at the airport. I said, actually, before, when he was getting ready to come out here and audition, I says, listen, let's work on these songs. I mean, let's work on some new stuff when you get here. But let's work on these particular type of songs from Supersonic, because that's the kind of stuff that we like to play live. But please do Chris, do not do Lance. I mean, just bring your own bag of stuff and play with that. It does not have to be like, it was, because there's already him doing his thing. Yeah. And Chris just, was perfect, because he didn't even think twice. He came in and he didn't pretend to do anything else other than himself. And he's got a strong point, because he's got it's a younger guy, but he's got the British blues rock tradition very, very I guess engraved in his music dictionary and what he learned growing up. So I think, like, especially where we're going now, where it's a Supersonic Blues Machine, but I think we're taking advantage of that of that influence as well. So right now it's not only Star Spangled Banner, but there's also the with the British flag together. It's kind of like it's a mesh. It's at least for the sound.
That's excellent. We'll wrap it up there. I've got one final question for you, sir.
Sure.
I'm hoping to break the internet with the answer. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Well, sorry, it's not a yes or not question. As an Italian, I would say absolutely, major capital F, no. But I've been living in the States longer than I've ever lived in Italy, and I guess I kind of I open my mind to anything. So I guess, why not? I mean, I don't eat meat no more, so the combination of Canadian bacon and pizza and pineapple, I guess that one makes the edge. I don't really enjoy like that, but to be honest with you, at this point, I'm okay. If you like it, go for it. But if you go to Italy, though, don't ask for pineapple over your pizza, because you're gonna get thrown out of a restaurant.
Fab, it's been wonderful speaking to you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much. It's been great talking to you too, and thanks for everybody home to watching.
That's great. Thank you for your precious time. This is Dave from Cyderbaby. Fab. Goodbye.
Have a good one.